Welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. Join your hosts, Rachel and Avram Gonzalez, real-life parents and business partners. Each week on Babies in Business, Rachel and Avram create a space for entrepreneurial parents to find their own way. They'll dive into insights on topics like leadership, efficiency, self-awareness, budgeting, and human psychology as they nurture their family and build their business. Here's your hosts, Avram and Rachel.
Hello and welcome to the Babies in Business Podcast. This is your co-host, Avram Gonzalez, joined by my co-host, my wife, my business partner, Rachel Gonzalez. Rachel, tell our listeners what we're doing right now, if they could picture us here. What's going on?
Yeah, we are sitting on the couch. I have our little bundle of joy on my lap. He's taking a nap, and we're getting stuff done while he's sleeping.
Keys to the kingdom, friends. In this episode, we're going to talk about 3 things that we did to help get ready for this new bundle of joy in our life while running a business full-time, working together, being at home, basically being in it the entire time, knowing that that's what we were headed to. We had a couple things that we wanted to share with you that we found powerful upon reflecting that we want to pass along to expecting business owners, right? Expecting that baby to join your life. There are certain things that will be turned upside down, and there were things that we did that we learned from, we wanted to share with you today. So we're going to talk about it in 3 different areas of our life that were impacted. And real quick, this is a brand new podcast. If you love it, please share it with your friends, your comrades, and folks who would appreciate this type of material, and subscribe to the podcast. Leave us a review. We would so appreciate you doing that. Let's jump into the content. So first, we want to talk about relationship. This is the foundation of not only your household, but your business, especially if you're working together. So Rachel, why don't you share some of the things that you were thinking about? You did a lot of research and prep before Lincoln arrived here. I'd love to hear more about it.
So, I was pregnant for 9 months, and I had a lot of time to read. And so I took that time to read. I read a lot of different books about mostly the postpartum journey. And one of the books that really, really impacted me was the Fourth Trimester. And it just talks about how we just, as women, we go through a lot of change. And there's also no thought really given for the dad and how he's going through some change too. You know, maybe he might, for the first 6 to 8 weeks, he's losing his friend, his partner, his lover, his mate, everything, because there's so much going on. And so I wanted to be able to help us as a family prepare for that and as a couple. And so there was this, in the back of the book, there's this form that you fill out separately. So Avram filled it out and I filled it out. And there were simple questions that really make us think about how to navigate a time that we just don't know how to prepare for. And some of the questions are like, what is your love language? How do you deal with stress? How do you recognize the stress in each other? Things like that. And just being aware, because each of us are going through it in a different way, and just having compassion for each other. So that was really the biggest prep that I did in terms of our relationship, is reading and just being aware of we don't know what we don't know.
Well, and knowing that there is pressure, so to speak, that is put on your relationship, there's less time that you might have. We're new parents, and we have only just had each other and a dog for the first 3 years of our togetherness and the first few years of our marriage, and so we knew things were going to change. There's something really powerful that Rachel has done for me, and maybe she could speak to that a little bit here, is she brought this mindset and this perspective. Was it from the 4th trimester?
No,
Okay, so
no.
Well, you want to talk about that perspective?
Yeah, there's this show, it's called This Is Us. It's a dysfunctional family, but you get to see their just realness in relationships. And Kate's character really actually inspired this way of thinking. Also, my mom probably is Kate shows up in a way that I just did not like. She had a specific way she wanted things done. And if you didn't do it, oh man, were you in the doghouse. So the kind of mantra that I have is I want people to show up the way that they want to show up. And I allow them to, so I let people show up the way that they will. And with Avram, he's never been around children, little tiny babies, and he has insecurities about those kinds of things or whatever, but I have many nieces and nephews, and this is nothing new to me. And so I wanted to allow him to learn what he could and just show up how he will.
Right. And something else that we did, and before we start talking about the next part that we wanted to get to, the second part here in our podcast today is there were these other exercises in the fourth trimester that we did that we actually kind of failed on a little bit. We had some goals that we had for 6 weeks out. We wrote these goals out, and you know what we did? Shh, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. We kind of forgot all about them and didn't tap into them and check on them the same way that we might with business goals. It's a little bit unlike us, but also, as Rachel said, didn't know what we were really getting ourselves into, what to expect. But what we did do that I think has served us well so far in our journey is we made that commitment to each other, understanding that our relationship is the bedrock for our entire life. It's where it started. It's where our family started, was with us. And this is a continuation of that. It allows us to show up more powerfully in business, in our relationship, and with our baby as well. Give him the best and the most that we can. So next, we'd love to talk about how our household changed, what we prepared for. There's a couple things that might seem like really simple things that we did, also things that we didn't know were possibilities until they were introduced to us in preparing for little Lincoln. You want to talk about the first one, Rachel, the doula? Because that was a game changer. And why was that important? Why do you think people should consider something like that in preparation?
Yeah, so first I had to have one question answered. I'd heard about doulas and I thought, well, if I'm having 2 midwives already, why would I want a doula as well? Because most often people think of doulas as being part of the birth process, but they also have postpartum doulas. And what was so special about it is that one of our midwives had suggested a postpartum doula, so I looked into it, and I just fell in love with the organization here, ABQ Doulas in Albuquerque. And I met with Jenna, our doula, and we had her come over a couple times a week for probably a good 6 weeks.
Yeah, like 2 hours each time.
Yeah. And she would come over and then I would get to take a nap. Or there were times when we would take a shower. Or there were other times when we would just sit and visit and we needed like some kind of like adult contact, but also having those questions answered. She helped us troubleshoot. Like sometimes he would be crying and we just didn't know what was going on, and she like how to settle him, and she made some suggestions, and they were just so helpful. And I felt less alone in the process, even though I have known babies and held babies. It was very different.
I think it's cool that with this, we really did take an approach that's much like we do in our business in terms of preparation and really planning ahead for things, understanding where our weaknesses would be, and looking at like, okay, how much money do we really have available to dedicate towards this first 6 weeks?
Building a business while raising a family can be tough to juggle for any entrepreneur. Knowing where to focus and how to spend your limited time is critical to your success. That's why Babies in Business has produced and made available a fantastic audio resource for you. It's titled 5 Key Focus Areas to Build a Profitable Business Without Burnout. During this short training, Rachel and Avram peel back the curtain on their secrets to building a business that serves your family, your dreams, and beyond. To download your free copy of the 5 Key Focus Areas, go to babiesandbiz.com/download. Again, that's babiesandbiz.com/download to get your free copy. We hope you enjoy. Now, back to the podcast.
When you're growing a business, growing a family, your budget for most people, it's limited to a certain amount of money. And it's like, well, what's going to be important to us? Looking at our relationship, we knew, well, that's important to us. We're going to need some backup because family's great, but you know what else is great as well? Somebody who is not family, who you have paid to come over and help you out. That was definitely a game changer for both our physical needs and even just getting some time together. Like, holy cow. Something else that we did that seems simple, but again, I think speaks to kind of how we approach things in business is we did a bunch of meal prep. We anticipated that the household would be a stressing point, specifically for me. Rachel's the one that's going to be nursing, feeding, taking that level of care with him. Well, how can I be a support? I started to stress and thinking about all the household things that Rachel usually helps with that I would be doing and I would be taking on alone. Knowing that we prepared, and that made for a pretty seamless transition into parenthood and not having to worry so much about the house or what we're going to eat when we haven't slept, we haven't showered. Normally our goals were, let's take over the world today. Our new goals were, how can we get a shower in today? And wow, that's a success. Those are the things that we knew we knew the household would be a stressing point for us if we didn't get some assistance or plan ahead.
Yeah, and you're a brand new parent when you're faced with an option, and those two options are, do I take a nap or do I take a shower? And you don't feel like you have time for both.
So I never played any contact sports in high school. I didn't, or like full contact. Yeah, I played like soccer, volleyball. You're not supposed to contact anybody. I didn't play football. And having a kid is the most full contact sport that I've ever played because it was so intense. Like Rachel said, I grew up an only child. I didn't have a lot of exposure to little ones, and it was it was just like the most intense thing. This brings us into our third topic of today, which surrounds the things that we did to prepare in our business, specifically for the arrival of our child. Um, a huge inspiration for our preparation was work that we started doing about 2 years ago. Rachel and I got together. We came together coming out of relationships that neither of our exes wanted children. When we got together, that is something that we shared, we had in common that we wanted to do. We talked about it from the beginning, and then we literally planned for it. We knew when we wanted to have him. We knew what we wanted to, we knew where we wanted to be when we had him. And one of those things that was important for me, but also for both of us, was that we could be fully present for at least this first 6 weeks, which ended up being more like 8 for us, and not have to be working every day or even working at all. And for a lot of business owners, the idea of taking a month or more off of your business seems like suicide. You put out fires and things every day. What's going to happen if you walk away? We were introduced to Adrienne Doris and the Run Like Clockwork community. We jumped into her Clockwork Accelerator in August of 2020 with the goal of creating a business that would run itself for at least a month or more while we were welcoming our new child into the world. And we spent specifically last year, since we knew he was coming, working very hard on the systems, processes, and more that were taught to us by Adrienne and the crew at Run Like Clockwork to be able to do that. I worked maybe 6 hours in the 8 weeks following the birth of Lincoln. And I don't think that's something that very many dads get to enjoy. Can you tell me a little bit, Rachel, why that was important for you too? And maybe what the journey of clockworking our business has looked like? And
Clockworking our business has meant so much to me because without really knowing how much, quote, work a baby is, I just knew that I wanted us to share this experience together, that it's a once in a lifetime thing. You have a child, and if you don't take care of that child, well, they don't get taken care of. Clockworking our business has just been an incredible journey It's helped us serve our clients better. It's helped us sleep better at night, knowing that we are serving them better. And really being able to, step away and have that confidence that things wouldn't burn down while we were out. I didn't do any work, very, very little work. And I was able to really focus on Lincoln. And that's really, really important. And as we keep going on these podcasts, we're going to be dropping these little tidbits of why that's important. What? I'm not even going to get into it because there's so many things and so many reasons why clockworking our business was so very important for having a child.
Our babies, our kiddos really deserve to have their parents there to whatever capacity works for that family, right?
Yeah.
And, my opinion, there is really not enough that you can give to your kid, whether that's the time or the energy you put in. We knew that if we could at least get the time, that it would be really, really special. And it was something very worth doing. So like you said, Rachel, yeah, we got plenty of podcasts to talk more about how this came to be, what was important about it. And shoot, maybe sometime we'll have Adrienne Dorson here on this podcast. She's a great mom, wonderful CEO, and brilliant woman who has helped us in amazing ways to build a business that ran while we were gone. Shout out to our team members at Digital Harvest. You guys killed it while we were gone and did such a great job in running the business while we were away. And so those three areas, our relationship, our household, and our business, were things that we started preparing for long in advance. If there's something that you'd like some support on, some insight, make sure to drop us a comment online. You can connect with us at hello@babiesandbiz.com. Send us an email. You can find us on social media. Shoot, you can find Rachel and I on Instagram, Facebook, things like that. Send us a message. Maybe we'll feature your question in an upcoming podcast. But I'd love to hear from you now, Mr. or Mrs. Listener. What's something that you did to prepare your business or your life for your new baby, the new bundle of joy in your world? We'd love to hear about it. So would the rest of our listeners. Thanks so much for tuning in. Rachel, any last thoughts here?
We're just so excited for the future of being able to tell you more about what we're experiencing in our world, because we think that it's really worthwhile and coming together on how we can really create these special moments and take the time to actually stop and smell the roses on life's journey with our children, that we don't walk by those beautiful experiences and say, maybe next time, because maybe next time won't come.
And on that note, we wish you the best. We'll catch you on the next one. Please drop us a line, subscribe to our podcast, review us, and get the word out, friend. We appreciate you. Bye for now.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Babies in Business podcast. Who do you know that would benefit from hearing this episode? Share it with them and post about it on social media. You can find the show notes for this episode, free downloads, and connect with the rest of the community at babiesandbiz.com. We'll see you next time.